OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
All right, you're very welcome along to Monday morning's OTB AM. We're here with you every day from 7:30 until 9:30. And obviously we're talking about the World Cup and a great weekend of football and whatever else you're having. So get in touch with us this morning. Use the hashtag OTB AM on Twitter, or you can just tweet us at OffTheBallAM is the Twitter handle. Obviously, if you're watching us live, you can drop a comment on the Facebook stream or the YouTube stream or wherever it is that you are watching us this morning. The best place to get us is actually on the Go Loud app. That's where we have our brand new sports radio station, and that's where there is 24 hours of sports radio content coming in your earballs every time you log on. Click the little button. Johnny Ward is with us. How are you?
Good morning, Ger.
A bit tired after a weekend on the Raz, or just like because it's early?
No, it's early, and it was a lot of sport yesterday as well. It was fairly draining, you know, and got 3 games in. Went to bed, saw the conclusion of Marcella last night on Netflix. Bit of a mad ending.
Haven't seen it.
Not bad, yeah. It's not bad. It's fairly lots of twists and turns, but
what is it?
What's that?
What is Marcella?
She's like, they're trying to solve in London these like this kind of serial murderer.
Is it Anna Friel? Is it?
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yes.
People have been raving about it.
Yeah. And I'm actually off to Racing TV today. I'm going over there for my first visit over there, so that's I have to rush out of here to get to the airport.
Oh, very good. And will we see it on camera?
Yeah, it should be on. This racing at Ferry House today, so didn't really do enough prep for it, but I'll work hard on the plane, and that'll be good fun. Yeah, I took the day off yesterday. It's just like went out to have a dip out in Dalkey and. Is it the Vico?
I just said Vico. Whatever. You might be right. You've got better Southside connections.
This place is another world, to be fair. A lot of people going around in Coola jerseys, though, which is interesting. A lot of kind of I'm back in Coola banners in the windows in the shops. What a beautiful little village. I've decided that I kind of want to live there now. So
I mean, you can
probably move in at the end of the month or so.
There'll be an affordable housing scheme, no doubt.
Yeah.
You can...
Yeah, there was a Lindsay estate agents, and I was looking at some of the prices with a couple of strangers, and one of them was 10 million, which is a little bit out of my league, yeah.
For now, until you know, they're racing TV. If you start doing enough prep, you know, you might get asked back.
I also had a bet on England in the handicap yesterday in a double with Liverpool.
Right.
So like that was let down straight away, so that didn't edge me any closer to the 10 million.
And what price for Liverpool before kick-off?
Actually, they went out to like 5-4 because I don't think Chelsea are much good, and I'd seen Liverpool against Napoli. I mean, I still thought they had a lot of a threat, and but we did a great debate here we did debate anyway on Saturday about VAR, and you know, the Spurs goal that was disallowed, and Nathan was trying to point that, you know, it's actually not really possible to even know if it were actually offside because the
technology isn't as good as it thinks it is.
Yeah. So I was sort of saying, like, you know, I kind of prefer if it just went back to the old ways. You get decisions wrong, but whatever. Like this kind of crack of you celebrate a goal and then a minute later it's like, oh no, that's not a goal.
Well, the Chelsea one was particularly egregious because they had to go back and back and back and back and then, oh yeah, he's offside there.
It was the right call though.
But was it not too far back?
Not really. It wasn't the attack. It was like basically a couple of seconds previous where Liverpool, you know, Liverpool were playing an offside trap and they got it right, and to be fair, it was like completely the right call. There was no debate about it. But it was funny because Liverpool then went 2-0 up like a couple of minutes later, and you're like, you know, this is great for VAR and all that, but it's very anticlimactic, obviously, for the home fans.
Yeah, it's not great. We'll get into football a little bit later on. Daniel Harris is going to join us to talk about Man United. If you've got a theory on Manchester United, we'd like to hear from you.
Well, they're crap.
But obviously, we're going to talk about
I mean, the
Rugby World Cup. We're going to cross over to Japan next. Eoin Sheahan has brought us the greatest fans video of all time after Ireland's win against Scotland in Yokohama. Here's a teaser.
Scotland were much worse than I thought they'd be. Scotland are a disgrace to world sport, really.
Ireland were fantastic. I think I've never seen a team like Ireland before, and I think hello, come on Ireland, come on Ireland, come on Ireland, come on Ireland. Why are you fucking laughing?
Oh.
It's a good that's a good video about how, like, you know, being drunk is so much funnier at the time than it is outwardly. It's like if you give up the drink and you spend time with people who who are like, the people who turn sober and they're like, I just can't do it anymore because after a few pints, it's just like people think things are funny and it's just like, you're just not funny. Like, it was very funny though.
It is the Vico Road, I'm told.
Vico.
Yeah. Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you.
Good morning, lads. How are things?
Johnny's not having your video. He didn't watch it last night, though.
I watched it. I thought it was great.
Oh, yeah, too late now, Johnny. You can't backpedal. That's one of those things.
It's not me. All I did was put a microphone in other people's faces. It's not my content. So you're more than welcome to slag them off, Johnny. I'm not standing over it whatsoever.
What percentage of the people you interviewed were drunk?
80%.
I would say
90%.
higher. Yeah. Sure.
It's 95%.
I would have gone for the full. I mean, it was late, right? It was late at a World Cup day.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just before last train from Shin Yokohama station. So I got caught a bit late in the stadium. I think I was like one of the last journalists to leave the stadium last night, and I was just going to say, screw it, I'm going to go home because it's absolutely lashing rain. But then I ended up going for a walk and I ended up stumbling upon a place of shelter, which was this train station. And this train station had a load of people that were like singing the Fields of Athenry. And I was like, this actually might make a decent bit of content. So it wasn't exactly the plan to go and look out for those sort of people. Like the town centre, I could compare Saturday night when you had the All Blacks and the Springbok fans in town to last night when you had the Irish and Scottish fans in town, and it was chalk and cheese. Like, really, I would have thought that, the Springboks, they're big men, the supporters that were there at the weekend, they know how to handle their drink. But really, nothing could compare to what I saw last night. It was absolute, and it's been the common phrase of this World Cup, carnage.
Did you give every one of these individuals like something to sign beforehand that they willingly sort of said we're going to make fools of ourselves forevermore? No,
dial back the legal aspect of this. We're dealing with a secular society here who might actually sue for that. So thanks, Johnny.
They came to me. It wasn't the other way around. So that's our loophole, right?
Yeah, consent enthusiastically delivered, I believe is the phrase we're looking.
I like the way he threw in, I was the last journalist to leave the stadium as well.
We all followed that, Johnny.
Yeah.
Why were you so late, Owen? You couldn't work the technology? You're having troubles with your ISDN line, so the commentary went down for the first 20 minutes. Is that what happened?
To be honest with you, I was looking for a place that had shelter. I had to go outside the stadium to take a call, and I just couldn't find shelter anywhere. It was bucketing down. It was a monsoon outside the stadium last night, so I ended up just getting lost, basically, outside the stadium. It was nothing to do with hard work and dedication. It was just to do with me, an idiot.
Who's this guy, Darren Paris, that you paid to tweet nice things about you?
Oh, yeah, very, very nice chap. Came up to me in that station as well outside. He features in the video. He's one of the only people, like when I say there's 90% of the people that are drunk, he might be in the 10%.
I remember him, yeah. Yeah, he looked. He was quite like he was on it. He was, very impressive beard as well, and the rest of it,
yes.
a lot of new coverage for Paul Howard, I would have thought.
Well, Paul Howard, I'm sure, would have had a field day there last night, especially the four chaps who had "Let's Get Smith-Face" on their tricolour flag that they brought into the transmission last night, which, of course, was a particular highlight in my life, getting to interview those.
Were they the ones who had the Ireland song that I'd never heard before? Was it a school's rugby song that had been tweaked? Was that what? Because I immediately went, I've literally never heard this before, and I've been at loads of Ireland rugby matches. So, but there is a type of rugby match that I've never been to. So maybe I was missing out. Was it did you?
I hadn't heard it either, to be honest. It rang a bell for sure, and it may have been like from, I don't know, some certain viral videos from schools games over the last couple of years. But I'd imagine that's what it was. They have their own thing, or maybe we're just getting old, Ger. We're actually falling out of touch with the young Irish rugby supporter, and they have their new songs. Fields of Athenry was very last century, perhaps.
Are you in some sort of plush railway cabin there? Or?
It's actually, I've just checked into my hotel. What you're seeing behind me is the city of Hamamatsu in Shizuoka Prefecture. This is where Ireland are going to be playing this weekend. Just came down into bullet train this morning, Johnny, and down to a whole new environment. You step off the bullet train in this environment and the humidity hits you. I was there strolling up to the stadium yesterday and I was like, this is fine. I've been here 10 days. I've acclimatized. I can handle the humidity. Actually, it just turns out yesterday wasn't a very humid day at all, because when I stepped off here in the south coast of Japan, it suddenly just hits you like a brick wall. It's going to be horrific conditions if you're not used to it this weekend, if it stays like this. It's glorious out there.
He's taking no credit for the great interview he did, but he's trying to hail himself for being able to handle humidity. He's an interesting guy, Owen.
Well, It's a big string to my bow, being able to handle humidity. Pros and cons of my life. Pros, number one is being able to handle the heat.
It's a coastal town. Are you going to get a few days at the beach? Is that like you're there? You know, obviously the work dries up now. Basically, is that it?
Well, there's a beach. The beach is an hour of a walk away, so I might pop down there. The bus can take you down there a bit quicker. I see that the local delicacy here is eel, so I'll either go down and you can't really catch eels at the beach, can you? They're more of they swim in streams really rather than in the coast. So
so many strings to your bow on. What do you know the way like
eel tickler was not one that we expected. I mean, you know, whatever you get up to in the privacy, whatever.
Yeah. Eoin is red haired, like you know. So South Africa, one of South Africa's forwards is very Irish looking, and
he was very Irish looking.
My girlfriend was like, "What's his story?" And I was like, "I actually don't know. I have no idea." But you'd imagine, like, you know, the way like in foreign countries, like if you see somebody who looks completely different, like Eoin does not look Japanese, got red hair, people gravitate towards him. I wonder, will Irish fans, like, now that they know what Eoin is, will they gravitate towards him every time they see him and want to be interviewed?
They are, aren't they?
Well, nobody's gravitated towards me. I've actually been surprised by this. It must be an urban myth, or maybe I've been had on, that apparently red hair has some sort of special power in Japan, that people tend to come over and actually rub your hair. I was told to expect it.
You're hoping
and it didn't happen once in Tokyo. So
it's great if you want to deal with humidity.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly down here in more rural area Japan. I'm looking forward to people coming up and rubbing my hair. I'm not going to be afraid, guys. Go ahead and do it. Don't worry. I see it as a sign of endearment.
You can imagine Eoin on a dating website. You know, qualities. You know, red hair, able to deal with humidity, and whatever after that.
Look, my brother plays as a tight head prop for South Africa.
Different physique going on there now. You'd be more of a diminutive kind of scrum half type character.
Well, yeah, I mean, if Eoin had only had access to, anyway, the training
regime
of a full-time rugby player.
Yeah.
And overnight there's been some injury news. Apart from all the crack, you've also been doing some hard, proper scoop journalism.
Yeah, well, there was a press conference this morning, so I wouldn't call it scoop journalism, but thank you very much for the credit. There was a press briefing earlier on today, and the RFU confirmed the situation with the HIAs. So that's Peter O'Mahony and Bundy Aki. So they obviously failed HIA 1 on the day yesterday. They passed HIA 2 last night, and then HIA 3 is taking place today. So if they pass HIA 3, then they will be available automatically for this Saturday. They don't have to go through the return to play protocol, and the return to play protocol is obviously a 6-day turnaround, so there's some confusion as to whether or not they would be able to play this weekend if they had to go through that. So it's kind of hanging on whether or not they'll pass HIA 3. Johnny Sexton, it was a bit of a knock in the leg, really, is what it was said earlier on, that he was taken off tactically, is what the IRFU said in relation to his substitution yesterday. Still a little bit of a grey area there. It was Cian Healy and Ger Carmody up for interview today, so maybe if we get one of the coaches up over the next couple of days, we'll be able to ask them in a bit more clarity what exactly happened there, why he's been kept on the pitch. But it seemed that maybe it was something resembling a dead leg, or something that he could just run off, and that's why Conor Murray stepped up to the plate a couple of times yesterday. In terms of any other injury news, then Josh van der Flier, he just had a cut over his eye, and he was taken off as well, but that was only just because he suffered a bit of a knock, and he's totally fine as well. So there is a possibility that you're going into this weekend with a clean bill of health. I do suspect, though, that Robbie Henshaw is probably not going to feature this weekend, because put my hands up, completely wrong last week about Keith Earls. I thought after the sounds we were getting from the camp earlier in the week that he was going to feature at the weekend, but it is that old chestnut with Joe Schmidt. If you don't train fully on the Monday or the Tuesday, you are not playing at the weekend, and it doesn't sound like Robbie Henshaw is going to be back in full training tomorrow with Ireland, which immediately precludes him from playing in a Joe Schmidt team, you'd suspect.
Yeah, there's no rush though, because they're going to beat Japan, and they're going to go all the way through to the quarterfinals, and there's now only one game that matters, and that is the quarterfinal against the Springboks. Yeah,
like what do we think about this? Like when do we like what mixture do we play over the next 3 games? Like after, I don't think we've got any fear from Japan after what they did on Friday, and also Ireland are back to a pretty high level as well. So this has suddenly become 3 games now where you can do whatever you want with them, you'd suspect. So like, is it half a team for all 3 of them, so that you have kind of a carousel of players who are just ticking over, or do you play your full team, B team, full team? or vice versa. It's interesting to think about what the combinations are. It was also very interesting over the last 24 hours or so, like how many questions get thrown at Joe Schmidt in the press conference, especially yesterday, about South Africa. Now, I thought, oh, well, this is not the time to be asking about South Africa because he's just going to say, well, we're just focusing on Japan next week. We've only won one game. But really, he kind of entertains the prospect that the South Africa contest might happen. So it's on now. I mean, we've gone right into this state of phony war, which these next 3 games are really going to be, unless the Japanese pull like a massive rabbit out of the hat this weekend. But I just don't think that's coming.
It's a great situation to be in because also like the substitutes who came on, in fairness, yesterday played a key role, and the players that have to come in, where will Carberry fit in now over the next sort of few games, and Ireland have that cushion now where they can try things, and it couldn't have been a better start really. Apart from, it was just everything went right. The 9-0 was great, and basically playing the player fullback that wouldn't be playing there otherwise, and he has a good game as well. And you're looking at, we have a lot more dynamism actually out wide than we look to have, and it's a perfect. I imagine he will use like pretty much the whole squad. The Japan game, like, you shouldn't be entirely taking that for granted because host nation, they're not that bad. They've had the odd scalp, but obviously the Russia game as well, and Samoa will be grand, and it'll be great opportunity to use players, I would have thought.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you probably have Samoa and Japan on a similar footing at this stage. Like, we'll have to wait and see how Samoa get on in their first game in a couple of days as well. So there's question marks over that. But I'd certainly be of the opinion that you kind of have a rotating cast of players. You don't just play a full B team over the next couple of days. With a 31-man squad, it's never the case. It's not like a summer tour when you've got a Lions tour on, for example. You're always going to have stars in your starting team in a World Cup team. But like this weekend, I guess his hand is forced a small bit in the fact that Conway and Larmour have already started the game. But like Rory Best played 80 minutes yesterday. Is it Niall Scannell who automatically starts at hooker? That's one change you could look at. John Klein, he needs to get some minutes as well, you'd imagine, because for the sole reason that he's been brought in as cover for a South African situation if Ireland have a few injuries. So there's plenty of options, but like you look at the bench yesterday, they were superb as well. Things are looking very rosy all of a sudden.
Oh, and we're going to talk to you a little bit later on as well, because you're off to the Japanese press conference next, right?
Yeah, it's on in this hotel actually in 10 minutes time, so hopefully there's an interpreter or an English speaker. We are getting pictures sent to us by Ireland fans in Japan. Greg Mallon was the first one.
His character has been hailed
a real
gentleman, which I presume is on about Eoin.
I mean, I don't know.
It just can't.
What they expected. Go on, yeah. Good luck.
Good luck. We'll chat to you in a while.
What a hero. Eoin's probably most famous moment was
being interviewed post-match, post-event.
Yes. Now he's kind of had his own back somewhat.
Yeah.
There's been one constant theme in both, but
7:49 a.m. this morning. You're watching OTB AM. We're here with you until 9:30. We've got Alan Quinlan coming your way at 8 o'clock. Going to run you through the back pages rather, the newspaper in just a minute. Front page of the sports section as they are on a Monday. The Irish in Japan doing us proud. That's Eoin coming your way at 8:20. If you've missed that, then stay tuned for that so far. Gary Breen, some Daniel Harris goodness, reflecting on another defeat for Manchester United. Back with Eoin post the Japanese press conference at 9 o'clock, and then sports news with Phil coming your way at about 9:10. So straight into the newspapers this morning, and obviously, as you would expect, everything is about Ireland. Bang at it is the headline. Focused Ireland demolish off-colour Scots in Rugby World Cup opener. Bach bounce, Razzie eyes a win, not Ireland. So he's obviously not talking about Ireland just yet. And Liverpool stay 5 clear with Chelsea win. Liverpool were impressive. They are impressive at this stage.
I didn't think they were impressive yesterday now, but obviously the fact that they won is what matters.
It could have been 3 or 4 in the first half though.
It could have, but as I said, it hinged on that VAR decision, and before that as well, Chelsea missed a great chance. I thought Salah was very poor. He was taken off. I think he was given pretty poor ratings by the various journalists, but he was... the second half he was very frustrating because he just kept giving the ball away basically, and Liverpool they weren't great, but they got the job done. The Indo is in with a shout, which is probably, we don't want to be getting too high about beating Scotland, but we look like we have a chance again all of a sudden.
There'll be no hype. I don't think there's going to be any hype until the week of the South Africa game.
Yeah,
right?
But up until then people will start thinking we've actually, like, South Africa aren't unbeatable. you know, I thought watching them against New Zealand, I thought Ireland won't be petrified by watching this. Should also just mention the end on page 2 and 3. It's like Irish display wins hearts and minds both on and off the pitch, and it's like we're already patting ourselves in the back for being the best bunch of lads ever, basically. But apparently the Japs love us.
Okay, so I've got the Irish Independent. You've already done that one. The Times, their sports section. It's a picture of Jacob Stockdale surging through and missing Conor Murray over his shoulder. Poor Conor Murray made two amazing trailing lines in the first half, and both times he was ignored.
Liam Toland was picking it out a fair bit in the air commentary. Liam Toland's a very interesting co-commentator because he kind of, I wasn't sure who he was because but his chats with Conor Morris are more like, really? Do you reckon? Like, so they kind of have this strange dynamic, but quite entertaining.
Yeah, that's where I watched it as well.
Yeah.
I chose to watch that. Springboks on horizon after clinical display. Everybody's talking about it. I thought Joe Schmidt afterwards was more giving than I've seen him in post-match in a long time. Like a great burden had been released, and he was also now happy to engage on a proper level.
Yeah.
No bullshit, no phoniness, no.
Why is that?
I'm pretending. It's because it's coming to the end.
Yeah.
And it's like you can't. Everybody knows what's happening.
Yeah.
We've just beaten Scotland. The rest of the group is going to be relatively straightforward for us. Now, it's
posing for a selfie with a fan there.
It's about avoiding. It's about avoiding injury at this point.
Yeah, but it was interesting that Eoin said, you know, that he entertained the notion of the South Africa game because that is a little bit of a break from the norm.
Yeah.
The racing post as well is Golden Boy Henderson Eyes Gold Cup for superstar Altior. I don't know, yeah, these stories, I'm always a bit wary of them. You go into them and it's like, because Altior has been one of the best 2 milers of all time, and now it's like, you know, but he kind of, I think he had a press opening day yesterday where he entertained the notion of stepping him up in trip, but I don't think we're going to see him in the Gold Cup.
How far is the Gold Cup? 3 and a bit?
3-2.5. Wales versus Georgia then. Georgia can make favourites struggle in tricky conditions. So you mentioned the betting on the rugby is obviously there's so many lopsided games that it's kind of hard to know what the angle is. Like even when I had a bet on England in the handicap yesterday, they still had to win by like 46 or something.
Yeah.
Which they didn't.
No. Sometimes it's the opening matches of the tournament where
a bit cagey as well, and
yeah,
I think there's probably a thing that the poorer teams will fade out in the second half of games after putting in a huge shift. You saw that Russia against Japan, but the size of some of the Tonga lads yesterday against England, bloody! I think the pack difference was something like 10% more in terms of weight. But anyway,
the back page of the Times London edition is Ferguson inspires England. Eddie Jones said that his England team were inspired in part by a recent visit to their training camp by Alex Ferguson as they scored a late try in their opening 35-3 win against Tonga. England hadn't been expected to be troubled by Tonga, but with time running out, they'd still only scored 3 tries and were 1 short of the bonus point. Bonus points obviously going to be important in that group. And the front of their football is going backwards, and it's the Man United centre-backs with their head in their hands. United lose 2-0 at West Ham, prompting Mourinho to claim they're worse now than when he was sacked.
He might be right.
Souness and Roy Keane in studio for Sky yesterday. I couldn't really. I think we were just heading out to our new home in Dalkey at that time. But I did see them. I couldn't actually watch them on live. But they all look very sour. Actually, they didn't look happy about life. But hammered in the sun. Legends lay into Ole's woeful United, and Fringe Festival, Conway, I don't like critics, I love them. Andrew Conway reckons Ireland's fringe players answer the critics after a thumping win, which is quite interesting because the fringe players had a huge role to play, and Ireland didn't really look any worse for the players that were missing in a way, I thought. Yesterday, no. But you would be pretty excited about the fact that we're getting some of them back.
Just like Carberry, where's he going to fit in? And
you get Jack Carty's spot, but Carty was good when he came on.
Carty was excellent, and I thought
Chris Farrell was probably playing himself into the team because Joe Schmidt likes himself a bit of Chris Farrell. He likes the size and scale and opportunity that he provides, and even when things were hairy in the second half, he had to pack down in the scrum for a while. I was like, I could do that. No problems. No big deal.
It was a 10 out of 10 in terms of what Ireland would have wanted from that game, pretty much.
Yeah, the injuries aren't bad. That's the main thing. Obviously, with the one proviso that we don't know what the story is with Johnny Sexton. The Daily Mail, best in show, and it's teammates hail efforts of Irish captain in rout of Scots, and David's a doubt for double header. This is not good news though. Slightly under the radar while Ireland were winning in the rugby is the news that David McGoldrick is an injury concern for Mick McCarthy. He missed Sheffield United's 2-0 win at Everton with a tweaked groin sustained while doing extra shooting practice.
Everything else is good though on that front, in that we might have a chance to talk about this later, but things are looking much better for the Irish football team, I think, and Sean Maguire scored again.
I'll read this.
Yeah.
As options, Sean Maguire is fit, while uncapped duo Aaron Connolly and Richard Sadlier are pushing for a call-up.
Yeah, that was...
Sadler's going to be like, right,
yeah.
wow.
First of all, he was
I
capped.
know Mick likes me.
Yeah, second of all, he can't move anymore. But of course, it's Kieran Sadlier, ex-Sligo Rovers and Cork City, who scored for Doncaster at the weekend. Ryan Manning played again for QPR. They're up to 4th, I think, or 5th in the championship. Preston are 3rd. And Aaron Connolly,
Come off the
the
bench.
boy
nearly
from
scored.
Galway, Ryan Manning's neighbour. Unbelievable technique. I don't know how he didn't score. Shar, of course, who was playing for the Swiss against us, clearing off the line. But Connolly and Troy Parrott, basically, to my mind, have to be in the senior squad for our upcoming games.
Yeah, you're of the view that age doesn't matter. I mean...
I would like Connolly and Parrott to be options off the bench if need be. And if McGoldrick's not playing, obviously that makes it more of a pressing case.
Big controversy in the League of Ireland, though, with the 14-year-old playing for Bowls or being in the dressing room.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that.
Shouldn't happen.
He's 15 next month. Does that make any difference?
No. Too soon.
The Guardian, Chelsea 1, Liverpool 2. Klopp's team see out nervy win and keep up their perfect start to campaign, and England need Fergie time. I don't know, the Ferguson thing, do they need Fergie to help them beat Tonga? Conor Murray inspires Ireland to a bonus point victory over sluggish Scotland that leaves Gregor Townsend's men under pressure. Scots look pretty screwed now.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I mean, if you are Scotland and you know you're going in against the quarter-final against either the Springboks or New Zealand, like that game... yesterday didn't really matter that much. You just need that team to peak in 4 weeks' time.
Did it not, though? Would you not prefer to...
I think that, like, if you're Scotland, you're getting beaten anyway, right? Unless you pull out some weird, fluky situation like they nearly did the last time. It was Australia in the quarter-final the last time where they got absolutely destroyed by a refereeing decision, and...
I was disappointed in Scotland, and I know I'd say Alan Quinlan might argue that it was more to do with Ireland playing very well, but Scotland just got no change out of our lineup whatsoever, and I thought their expansive game never really took off. I mean, they barely had one try chance in the whole game.
Yeah, they weren't exactly under our post, but then there was one mistake that we end up hacking down the field, and
that was very fortunate, to be fair.
and that kills the game.
Yeah.
At that point, they're like, if they get a score, it gets back to close. Pierre Lefew, not many people were paying too much attention to 10-man Arsenal yesterday, but they grounded out against Villa with a late win, and it sounds like it was a bit of a cracker. 3-2 for Arsenal, and difficulties now for Villa at the bottom of the table.
It's kind of mad, the Premier League, in that you're looking at the so-called big teams, and you're thinking like Man United beaten, Chelsea beaten, Arsenal obviously pulled it out, but I don't know if there's any sort of, apart from the top two finishing first and second, which I think everyone agrees they will, it's fairly hard to call after that. I mean, I wouldn't really bank on any of them finishing in the Champions League spots.
No.
Probably Arsenal should be okay, but...
Last few headlines for you. The Star Ole Badge Show. I don't get it. Is there? Am I missing something? I might be. Jose and Keane batter Solskjaer, and Joey will be a perfect 10. Joey Carberry is primed to be unleashed at number 10 in Ireland's World Cup showdown with host nation Japan, with Johnny Sexton taking a back seat. And then the Mirror is the same stuff. So bad it's scary. No leaders, no quality, no desire. Legends Keane and Jose shocked at how awful United have been under Ole. I don't think you can call Jose Mourinho a Man United legend. In fact, I know you can't.
He's a legend, and he was with Man United, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Herald, Joe Brace for Bach Battle. He warns of South Africa challenge. So Schmidt has obviously thought about this, where he's made a conscious decision that I will talk about South Africa and potentially playing them. Interesting one here, Con on the double for Kula. Will O'Callaghan, and I actually put up a tweet last night and then just went to bed, and you wake up and it's like the debate has happened and you've had no input because you've just basically have been asleep or watching Marcella.
Same thing.
Con on the dub for Cool anyway in the hurls. They've managed to get a photo of him here where his hurl is unbelievably obscured. Either that or it's not in his hands. But I did notice in Dalkey yesterday, all the people come around in Cooler jerseys.
There you go.
Yeah.
Everyone likes a winner.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a snide remark there.
What?
Everyone likes a winner.
They do.
Implying that they're bandwagon.
No, not at all. Everybody likes a winner. That's it. We've got to take a quick break. We'll be back talking Coola and Conor Callan a little bit later on. I've got a clip to remind you of just how good a hurler he is and whether or not he should be actually playing with the hurlers or when he might play with the hurlers. We'll talk about that in a while. But we're sticking with the Rugby World Cup. Alan Quinlan is also in Japan. We're going to join him right after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
The Sport Ireland campus Blanchardstown is the home of Irish sport, not just for our athletes but for you in the community. Check out our amazing offers for families with kids camps, sport academies and birthday parties. Or for adults, why not join our gym with a 50-metre pool? Or your club, school, friends can book one of our world-class indoor or outdoor facilities, including our athletics track, soccer, basketball or badminton courts and many more. Check us out on sportirelandcampus.ie.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
OTB AM.
Yeah, we're happy with a good bit of it. I had a look over it last night and there's a lot of good stuff to take from it and still a good few work-ons, which is usually the case. So it definitely gives us something going into this week to have main focuses on. Some of our plays came off and we did a lot of defending, so we didn't go too much into the playbook and didn't have to use too much of our set piece stuff, but open play was flowing nicely and I think people were running nice lines and defending well as well, so it's, we can take a good bit from it.
Alan Quinlan, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, Ger. I was just up out of the chair there, sorry.
No worries. Tell me, whereabouts in Japan are you at the minute?
I'm in the northeast of Japan, in Kamashi. We travelled from Tokyo today and on the bullet train, and this is probably not a huge game from a rugby point of view, but from a bigger picture, it's massive because Fiji play Uruguay here on Wednesday, and this is the area where the earthquake happened in 2011, and Kamashi was completely wiped out. For any of the viewers or listeners, you can Google Kamashi and a tsunami and the earthquake that happened here. And this is a massive game, really, because it's they built this stadium for the World Cup, and it's called the Kamashi Memorial Ground in honour of the people that were killed here in the tsunami. Scott Fardy actually was one of the players who played with the Kamashi Seawolves here, and he was one of the people who helped in the recovery and the clean up of the place. A lot of the rugby players did, so it's a really kind of significant moment for this part of the country.
How big a city is it? I've no idea, no concept of just what kind of a size.
Well, it was the population in Kamashi was 36,000, but there was loads of different areas along the northeast coast of Japan that were affected and hit by, like there was other places, Fukushima. I think there was a nuclear blast there. I'm not sure if I've got the name right.
Yeah.
There was a couple of places, like one other area, 4,000 people were killed in the tsunami. But in this particular area, it's a real rugby central hub, if you like. And there's a lot of Australians and Kiwis that played here and been signed by the local team. And Scott Fardy played here. So this is really significant for this area in Japan, this match and this World Cup. And it's really interesting because I was watching some videos and reading up about it, that in the recovery and the relief work, the local people, even in the devastation, all the rugby players helped in the recovery and the cleanup, and the local people wanted them to go back and start training again because the season, it happened on March 11th, I think 2011, and the season was due to start around the end of May, June, and they asked all the players to go back and train and start the rugby again because it lifted the spirits of the people, and they just loved their rugby. So I'm really looking forward to going here on Wednesday to this game because it's going to be a really special moment. How I think how sport unites people and how it lifts people, and that's really been the big emphasis about this game that's going to happen on Wednesday between Fiji and Uruguay.
How are you getting on otherwise? I saw we put up your tweet earlier on about the 2 million people through that train station in Tokyo today in the bullet train. What has Japan been like for you so far?
It's been chaotic, to be honest. I arrived on Thursday. I didn't do my first game until yesterday, and the Ireland-Scotland game. So I watched the opening ceremony on Friday night, and I just watched a few games, the 3 games on Saturday, and did a bit of prep work for the Ireland-Scotland game. But I was staying right in the centre of Tokyo, right in the middle of the city. There's 37 million people in the greater area of Tokyo. It's phenomenal. And that's taking in the suburbs as well. There's probably 12, 13 million people in the centre of Tokyo. They say 10 million people come in and out of Tokyo every day. Isn't that just phenomenal?
Yeah.
So that's incredibly busy.
It's funny you say that, Quinny, because there's a story in the paper today about the dart and how, like, basically, and I think this is the most Irish solution and Irish problem ever. And I was actually on the dart yesterday, and it was like, the way to solve our problem with overcrowded darts is actually, you wouldn't mind taking a few earlier trains or maybe a bit later. And but the figures were 10,000 people, I think, used the dart in the mornings. I mean, we can't even deal with that, like 10,000 or 14,000 or something like that. But it doesn't sound like Tokyo.
No, it doesn't. There's 10 million people. It's phenomenal in and out of the city every day. And it's amazing. There's a city under a city, if you like.
Yeah.
You can go underground to shops, restaurants. You can walk from one area to another area underground. It's amazing. But I haven't really got to see a whole lot. A bit of jet lag in the first day or two, and then I enjoyed all the rugby on Saturday. And yesterday was obviously really special. It was a fantastic start for Ireland. It was
as good a performance from Ireland as we've seen since the demolition of England at Twickenham to win the Grand Slam. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. We got to keep it in context a little bit. Scotland were really poor, but the efficiency, the way Ireland played, given the pressure and the expectation and maybe the negativity that's kind of followed the team for the last 7 or 8 months, and the criticism, and by their own admission, they'll probably say some of it was justified. They didn't play well. They hit a bit of a brick wall, and we were all kind of intrigued by how they would start this World Cup. Now, it's still the same scenario applies, Ger. They've still got to go to a quarter-final and win a quarter-final for it not to be a failure. But the confidence and the self-belief that they can take from that win yesterday is massive. And what really, really, really impressed me was loads of things in the game, obviously, but the impact the bench made. You know, Bundy Aki goes off, Peter O'Mahony goes off, Johnny Sexton goes off, and it was seamless, the transition for the players that came on. I thought Luke McGrath was fantastic. Conor Murray probably had one of his best games in years. He showed why he's such a good player. But Luke McGrath was brilliant. Chris Farrell coming on for Bundy Aki, and even Gary Ringrose, the way he played. You could say that both those guys, you know, if Aki and Henshaw were fit and didn't pick up the injuries, they wouldn't have been involved on the field yesterday. Maybe late on in the game, Ringrose would have been on, but he was fantastic as well. So Conway, Larmour, brilliant at wing and full back as well. So given the injuries that they had and the stuff they had to deal with before the game, during the game, I thought it was fantastic. And the way they scrambled defensively at the end of the game and didn't want to give up that try to Scotland when they were down to 14 men was incredible. So I got to temper that and not get too carried away. And I'm sure some people will be thinking, oh yeah, we've heard this before. But I just think from their point of view, the self-belief and the confidence that they can take from that is massive.
Yeah, it's like all of the things that they had doubts about, they were able to answer in one way or another over the course of that 80 minutes, even getting the full 80 minutes out of Rory Best and him just proving that he could keep to himself, I'd say, as much as anybody else, that he could keep the level that he was at 18 months ago and get back to that level again. That was a big thing from his perspective. From the coach's perspective, did they learn anything that they didn't already know, do you think?
Well, I think the coaches will probably go away and go, the stuff we worked on, the plan we had, it came to fruition yesterday. They could have scored another 2 or 3 tries. I just thought their execution was fantastic. So I think what the coaches will have learned, that the players that came off the bench, they offered impact. Chris Farrell offers impact. He's someone, and that's exactly what you want moving forward in the tournament. That, you know, if changes happen, that the guys that come in, that they can make a difference and they can add to that, you know, add to the value of the team. Go back to 2015, and we probably will always talk about it until we get past that quarter-final stage. The 5 or 6 guys that missed that game against Argentina. So we had that kind of disruption yesterday, before and during, and they coped really well with that. So I think what the coaches will have learned, that this team is a united group and they showed a lot of good leadership. And, you know, we should celebrate a wonderful performance. We shouldn't focus solely on Scotland being really poor. They blew Scotland away from the first whistle, just with real intensity, aggression. Someone like CJ Stander, I just thought, a guy under so much pressure, he was phenomenal. His work rate, his tackles, his positional sense, he just looks so sharp. Ian Henderson was another one who I think, and I've said this before, he's a wonderful player. I'd love to see him just be more dominant, more aggressive. And I thought just some of the tackles yesterday, Josh van der Fleer was wonderful. Yeah, I'm picking out guys here, but I think collectively as a pack, and I said this in my piece on Saturday, the pack as a unit have to work as a unit and not be bullied again and learn from the past a little bit. And they went out with that real intent. Now the challenge is, can they keep that going? You know, Japan will be tricky, Russia will be easier, Samoa tricky again. If they get to a quarter final with everybody fit and healthy and they can build on the momentum, well, they'll be in a good position then. And maybe Joe Schmidt can plot a one-off victory, a big victory against South Africa then. But I thought it was a wonderful performance. And Rory Best deserves special mention, because we all questioned him in the last few weeks, and rightly so. I know him pretty well. I played with him, and I've said this before. He's a very strong, resilient character. And to see him, I player cammed him, because the last 15 minutes, it was a kind of a tricky commentary, because it was over. Scott Hastings was leaving down the microphone. He was devastated. And I player cammed Rory Best. And I just thought, the way he made tackles, the way he bounced up, the way he got back in position was fantastic. Now, they were on the front foot, Ireland, but sometimes when they were hanging on and defending, he was making lots of tackles and moving incredibly well, and he deserves credit for that.
If we were to play South Africa, Quinny, what are the flaws there that we'll be trying to exploit, do you think, from the Kiwis game?
Well, they're incredibly powerful. So, Johnny, first and foremost, you have to get your set piece right. The line-up was brilliant yesterday. The scrum was fantastic. A different proposition. You play South Africa. They're incredibly physical, and you saw from the first 20 minutes of that New Zealand game on Friday night that they can do damage, they can hurt teams. They're probably lacking the same kind of dangerous attacking threat that New Zealand would have. So you've got to go toe-to-toe up front with them, and then hope that you can have good variety in your kicking game, and maybe isolate someone like Chelson Colby, who can be a match winner, but if you put high aerial bombs on top of him, you can expose him a little bit. And you've got to move them around. You've got to vary your attack. So if you hit up midfield, you have to have an option to go back blind side, and just keep them guessing and thinking, and hope that, you know, nothing's changed. This isn't any secret that I'm saying here. If you play South Africa, you've got to bring them to 10, 15, 20 phases, and then hope that maybe these big, strong, physical guys there'll be a few gaps in the defence, but ultimately, you've got to step up physically against South Africa, and I think it's a couple of weeks away, and we will focus a lot on that when and if it happens. But I think they're in a good place, and mentally, Joe Schmidt said they were broken after the Six Nations. Well, they went a long way to healing that kind of broken scenario yesterday.
What do you do if you're Schmidt now with the remaining games? Obviously, we need to win those games. We might not even need to win the last game if we've 3 bonus point wins secured, and who knows what happens between heading into the Japan-Scotland game. But anyway, we definitely want to face South Africa as opposed to New Zealand. So what do you do to make sure that you keep everybody at the level that they need to be at for the week of the South Africa game?
Well, I think there will be a couple of changes. I if Johnny Sexton's groin is giving him trouble, maybe Carberry starts at 10. I wouldn't make a lot of changes. I think Peter O'Mahony probably won't play. Bundy Aki, they failed HIAs. Rob Kearney and Keith Earls may come back into the mix. I wouldn't make too many changes. I'd keep the spine of the team as strong as possible and give Japan the respect they deserve. They're going to be very, very dangerous next weekend. So I'd keep as many of the frontliners as possible because they haven't played in 2 weeks. So they had a week off. They had a prep week. They'll be on a high after yesterday. They will be sore, but I keep as many as possible. It is a 6-day turnaround. And then a lot of your frontliners, that spine of the team, I would make changes for Russia. And you will have the luxury of being able to do that against Russia, and then maybe mix and match a little bit for Samoa, depending on who needs games and how fresh you want to be for that South African game. So I would go as strong as possible against Japan. Who knows? They may split half of the team and make changes. But I think by the time the Russia game finishes, it's important that everybody in the squad has played.
Yeah.
Because then you have that unity, and I was there in 2007 when 4 of us didn't play, and even though you're trying to be positive, it's difficult. If everybody plays coming up to that last game, or even gets involvement in 2 games, and you can go into a quarter-final and hope there's going to be injuries for everybody. Hope that you have most of your frontliners available. Well, then you can give it a real crack.
I think we kind of look at it as dead rubbers as well, maybe like the Ireland-Russia game, whatever like that. But like to even score a try at the World Cup or just to be on the pitch, like it must give you such a lift and to feel part of it.
So long as you feel like you've got a route to getting into the team for the big games, and because of injuries, probably everybody does. Just on that point about the Samoa game, Ronan O'Gara was with us a couple of weeks ago, and he just was like, "Look, in those games, people get injured, and we've seen it before." When Ireland have played against Samoa, players have ended up with broken bones and being out for 4 to 6 months afterwards. So, what do you do for that game? Like, do you just take the risk?
I think the squad is good enough to make changes and beat Samoa. It depends what kind of shape they're in. They're going to be very, very physical and powerful side to play against, and on their day they can be very, very dangerous. The problem is when you play the Pacific Islanders, you're playing against powerful, aggressive guys that you have to have some sort of structure with. I think you saw Australia-Fiji at the weekend. Fiji cut them open a few times, and then because Australia tried to play an open, expansive game, and that suits them if it's open. Second half, Genia comes on, he's putting kicks in behind them, they're squeezing them at scrum, at a line out, forcing penalties, and that's the kind of performance you want, and that's the kind of plan you would want against Samoa.
Yeah.
You can't sometimes legislate for injuries, but you could change the front row. Kilcoyne, John Ryan, Sean Conan could start against Samoa. You're protecting Healy and Furlong and Best then for South Africa the week after.
Yeah.
I think the frontliners start against Samoa, which they could do, depending on if guys have a week off against Russia. Some of them will start against Samoa to be sharp and fresh. But going into South Africa, you have to be fresh and try and, some of those big names you want to try and keep them and as fresh as possible. Because psychologically, I think if we go in against South Africa and that's 2 or 3 of your frontliners missing, it'll bring back memories of 2015. But I think this is a strong squad, and you saw the value that Larmour and Conway brought yesterday and the impact off the bench. So yesterday was good. There's a lot more to happen in the next few weeks, but they can certainly build on it.
There's one last thing I wanted to talk to you about. Hamish Watson obviously has gone home with injury. Australia's Reece Hodge has been cited by World Rugby after a big hit against Fiji. It's led to this piece in Fox Australia. Where's the consistency, World Rugby? Ireland and New Zealand counting lucky stars, as Hodge made example of. So he's here saying that Hamish Watson was injured because Tyke Furlong didn't enter the ruck in the right angle, and if Watson's injury had actually been a concussion, Tyke Furlong would be in trouble, as opposed to the issues that we're seeing now with one of the Australians being cited exclusively, he reckons, because there was a concussion involved. Are you buying this?
Well, it's Phil Kearns, I think. I saw it online, and he's Reece Hodge, first of all, should have been sent off in the game. It was shoulder to the head. Yato went off concussed, so I think it should have been a red card. That was missed. They had the ability to go back and look at it again, and that was a mistake. I don't blame the players for the side entries, and we've seen a lot of them at the weekend. I don't blame them for the offsides, because it's exactly what I would do. But I think the officials need to work better together, and I mean the assistant referees. There was a lot of side entries, and you could say Tyke Furlong's one wasn't blatantly obvious, and it's debatable whether it was illegal. I don't think it was, but I think if by the letter of the law you're supposed to come in through that gate in a very square position, it's a penalty, and unfortunately there is going to be more injuries from this scenario unless it is policed a lot better. And I really thought at this World Cup that it would be, and that the officials would work together, because there is a lot of side entries. There was one from Michael Hooper against Fiji, and there was one from Dane Coles in the New Zealand game that were just blatant. And
right.
I don't blame the players. I think it's an officials thing that needs to be sorted.
Alan, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your time down there. We'll talk to you real soon.
Cheers, guys.
It's Alan Quinlan joining us from the northeast coast of Japan ahead of the midweek game that is there. There's not that many good games now until, obviously Ireland playing next Saturday, and there might be some jeopardy involved.
What time is our game
Japan,
next Saturday?
It's 8:45, I think.
Yeah.
And then it's Wales against Australia the next day. That's big.
It's just unfortunate there aren't just so many teams that are just. Even looking at Tonga yesterday, I was looking up Tonga. Tonga's a load of islands. It's only 100,000 people. Tonga competed very well against England when you think of the
disparity.
Something like the size of Galway City or something like that.
Some of the English players are actually Tongan as well.
Yeah.
So here's Ronan O'Gara's take. Here's what he made of New Zealand against South Africa this weekend. Have a look.
And what did you see in South Africa that you thought, well, that's a vulnerability, that's something potentially that could be taken advantage of? What kind of things?
Well, I think Josh Smith is a genius at picking weaknesses, but he like what he sees in Colby and Willie LaRue. In defensive, I think aerial bombardment. Also, I think you can see if you slow down, if they don't win as many collisions as they're used to winning, they revert to the air. Ireland have a very good aerial game. And I think there are opportunities, off scrum. Ireland's scrum is probably going to be the best in the competition, judging on today. So that's a massive. I don't think South Africa have more football from us, far from it. So they had a really good game, the bullies teams, and they talked themselves up with having a brilliant defensive line speed game. But you could see yesterday that New Zealand picked it apart at times. So Ireland would be well able to do that as well.
All right, that's some promising noises coming from Ronan O'Gara. It's weeks away yet. No need for us to get too carried away. So.
It's not insignificant though that Joe Schmidt has so much time to prepare for this, and that's going to be a huge I think if you're up in the air as to who we're playing, say if we 2 or 3 teams that we could be playing, this is a great situation where admittedly South Africa can also say, well, we can look at Ireland.
Exactly,
but they
have somebody in their backroom team who was in with the Ireland squad recently enough.
Yeah, well, when you looked at now, in fairness, if you look at the first 20 minutes of the New Zealand game,
pretty good, yeah.
You're scared at how strong they are, but they end up very quickly conceding 2 tries, and you're kind of I don't know. I think Ireland will definitely.
Now New Zealand were sensational.
They were.
We're not that good.
But for all that South Africa did, they didn't really penetrate that much. They were unbelievable up front, but what did they really? Yeah, and I don't know. I think Ireland they get huge belief out of that as well, and they can prepare and sort of shadow box a little bit for the next couple of weeks.
All right. The Irish fans were in great form in Yokohama. Our very own Eoin Sheahan got the very best out of them. Have a look.
It's job very much done for Ireland here in Yokohama. They come away with a bonus point win against Scotland. And right around here, Irish fans are having a pretty good night.
We thought it was a fabulous game. We came all the way from Hong Kong.
All right, okay.
Yeah, we all live in Hong Kong, so we all came to watch the match from there.
Great stuff.
Yeah, we're all a big fan of, who are we a big fan of?
Scotland are shite. A good performance back in for Johnny and for Conor Murray. It's about time, like they needed a match to come back into it.
I was really impressed with Johnny Sexton coming back in for his first big game back.
I personally think Johnny Sexton did nothing.
The England game probably has done us wonders. To be honest with you, we were there and we saw it happen. We saw it unfold. A lot tighter in defence, a lot stronger in attack. But a great game altogether, to be fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Just when we're going to call our firstborn son Jacob Stockdale-Gleeson.
I don't really see where you're getting that from, but anyway.
To be honest, I think Scotland were trying to keep it under 50, to be very honest. I think Scotland were trying to keep it under 50.
I think that nothing's happened really. Scotland were very poor, we were really good. So I'm confident that we'll get through the quarterfinals, but it's tough.
Yeah, how confident are you?
I am 100% confident.
I think the forwards did the best.
Here,
so Sexton was useless.
I'll put a lighter to him and he'll melt because he's plastic. Don't mind him.
Peter O'Mahony was great.
Hopefully his injury isn't too bad.
Hopefully his injury isn't too bad. We're all wishing him the best for his recovery.
Peter O'Mahony's.
It's a HIA. He's got a HIA most of the time anyway, right?
I thought Ireland played really well for the whole game today.
Any fags?
Scotland came out full raring to go, but Ireland really put it up to them for the full 80 minutes. It was a great game to go.
Ireland must feel they're screwed now with 4 head injuries and Samoa still to play, and if they get through they'll meet South Africa in the semis, so really they're screwed.
Where are you from?
New Zealand.
We could do it. After tonight's performance, I'm now believing that we could do it.
We're going to beat New Zealand or South Africa, I'm telling you right now.
I think South Africa's power game at the quarterfinals is probably going to do us in, but listen, we look good tonight, so I'm happy enough.
Yeah, good stuff.
We look good. To be fair, we look good. But I think South Africa are just a different test for us.
Yeah.
They're a different test for us.
Where are you guys all from? Have you travelled over from Ireland?
Yeah.
Dublin.
Scotland was just shy, like.
Qatar Airways, brilliant airline.
Where are you guys from?
Dublin.
CJ Stander, unbelievable.
Yeah, man of the match again today.
Yeah.
So where do we think Ireland are going to finish up when it comes to this tournament?
Winners.
Winners?
I like to think so.
Shagan.
No.
Off the ball. Oh wow. This is aggressive.
I've watched off the ball. I'm Scottish. I've seen it on YouTube. Off the ball, to be fair, I've watched off the ball on YouTube. They're good boys.
I think the Irish defence was pretty good tonight. Scotland didn't score a try.
Go on, Ireland!
But Scotland were very good tonight.
Strong performance. Really strong performance.
He fell asleep during the game. I've got photographic evidence of him asleep during the game.
That is not the player's fault. That is completely his fault.
It's what we wanted. Strong performance.
You know what? We met a South African last night, and he was there. He knew that Dublin won 5 in a row because he watched us off the ball.
He did.
He really, and he lives in Thailand. And he was like, those bloody Dubs, 5 in a row. They got all the money, and I'm from Donegal, and I was like, yeah, they do have all the money.
We love it. We love you. We love you. And everywhere we follow, we follow, we follow. Because we support the Irish, the Irish, the Irish. And that's the way we like it. We like it. We like it. Oh!
We absolutely love it.
Folks, what did you think of that?
Great game. Great game in all fairness.
Irish team, realistically.
We definitely needed that in all fairness.
Point, what more do you want? Realistically.
Well, what do you think?
He's solid.
I mean, keep it.
This is the game we wanted. Get over Japan tomorrow or on the 28th, and look, we'll see South Africa then.
What do you think?
Are you confident than me?
I think Gav is right.
Gav's a fucking bullshitter.
Scotland were much worse than I thought they'd be. Scotland are a disgrace to world sport, really.
Ireland were fantastic. I think I've never seen a team like Ireland before, and I think Yeah. Hello. Come on, Ireland. Come on, Ireland. Come on, Ireland. Come on, Ireland. Why are you fucking laughing?
Come on, Scotland!
Come
Come on yourself! Come on yourself! Oh, come on yourself!
Great man.
Do you know what? We'll take Japan, we'll get through them handy enough. We'll get through Samoa, we'll get through Russia. We'll go to South Africa, we'll take them when we want as well. And then we'll take who we can in the semi-finals. Get through that and come on Ireland! And do you know what? Come on Munster!
Scotland's going to win the World Cup. Hey, all the best to Ireland. See you in the semis.
Yeah.
Well,
just imagine though, like what, like you wake up in the morning after that and you're like, oh shit, did that happen? And then you can get people texting you saying, you should check out this link. You're 3 minutes and 7 seconds in.
yeah. I'm just trying to check now. How many views has that got just on Twitter alone? Is it 57,000 this morning when I woke up? 52.5. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It's the booze is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, everybody seemed happy enough. They were looking after themselves.
Yeah, it'd be good if they did it. If he did a follow on with the whole lot of them the following morning, it'd be interesting.
The fear,
slightly different. That Scottish guy would have, you know.
Owen knows exactly what it's like though, because he had the fear of that one did like 1 million views.
Yeah, but the difference was Owen wasn't drunk. No, it was just
time.
Yeah, that time. Yeah. Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's always interesting. You know, there's so much media now that you can make a fool of yourself on Twitter when you really shouldn't. So you shouldn't be getting involved.
Yeah.
On nights out, you can kind of get I want to give out about something for the crack, and probably shouldn't have done that.
No, it's dangerous. Definitely dangerous.
Dangerous. Yeah.
And,
have you ever been caught out?
I mean, the great thing about it is that everybody forgets about it because no one has any attention span anymore. So
that's the
news cycle.
Yeah.
Whips through like a hurricane and everybody goes, what was that again? What was that thing? How did that happen?
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Yeah, dreadful attention span.
Yeah. Right. After a week spent celebrating Dublin's 5th All-Ireland title in a row, Conor Callahan played his first hurling game in 5 months. How do you think it went? Scored 2-3 to send Cuala into the Dublin Hurling Championship semi-final. Does anybody remember what our Tommy Walsh said about Con the hurler? This is back in December 2017.
So Conor Callahan, Owen makes the ridiculous point that he's the best hurler in the country at the minute. He's not quite the best hurler in the country, is he? I mean, there's a big difference between club and inter-county.
The ceiling is incredibly high.
That's a different point. That's a different point. Right now, at this moment, you said he's the best hurler in the country.
Possibly. we don't know the answer. Is the thing? We don't know the answer.
We do.
Jeremy, I'm sorry, I'm actually going to disappoint you on this as well. I was only talking about it the other day, and then the whole, it's club. He's only playing club. Only, I don't mean that because club is extremely difficult. To me, Conor Callahan is the best hurler in Ireland right now. Now, I know the county haven't played, but it just reminds me of DJ. I remember us going to Gorn matches, same as that. And there used to be an extra few hundred people at just their ordinary first round league games and that, just to see DJ, because when the ball comes into his space, next minute, bzz, the whole place is just on a buzz. What's going to happen? You look at Con, and ever since, I'm not sure about the county final, but ever since then, when that diagonal ball comes in, it's usually two-man full forward line. So it's just a kind of what's going to happen next. Usually he gets the ball, goes round his man, either gets fouled or puts the ball in the net.
Yeah.
To me, I think he's the best hurler in Ireland.
Right.
He reminds me of DJ.
Right, well that is high praise.
Yeah, and he can't ever get to that level because he won't be putting in the same time into his hurling. And, you know, if he was to get to play inter-county, he's not going to have the same touches that he could have if he was playing, 100% of the time.
So he's obviously, 21, turning 22 now, and the talk amongst Dublin football fans is that all the Dublin footballers will be exclusively committed to the footballers, at least until they do 5 in a row, because obviously, you say it and it says, straightforward, but it's obviously not straightforward. But at that point, as 23, 24-year-olds, him and some of his other teammates could easily decide that they want to be hurlers and hurl exclusively. So that's not too late for him to get back to a level that's really good, if not quite DJ level.
Yeah, it'll depend really on, as you said, the success of Dublin. I would nearly say the opposite. If they stay winning, the hurlers will have no chance of getting Conor Callaghan.
Yeah.
It's only if they start going through rocky patches where they're being beaten maybe in earlier rounds before All-Ireland semi-final stage. Suddenly then you could see, as you're saying, Anthony Cunningham, we could do with him for a month.
Yeah.
But if they were betting at Leinster whenever, maybe in July or that, and there was still a semi-final and final to play, maybe then they could bring him on. But I think as long as Dublin football are going well, I think it's the time that you're putting into it these days. It's like asking someone to be a professional tennis player and a professional soccer player. Very, very difficult to do. And I don't think, especially the way we're all bought into this team ethos at the moment, I don't think Jim Gavin would be happy to see a guy off for a few weeks, someone else training really hard, Con coming back in and still playing.
What do you think?
I don't really agree with it now. You know, it's obviously nominally amateur kind of sport anymore, and they're effectively professional players. But I've made this point for a while, and it's not only Conor Callaghan as well. Obviously, Jeremy Connolly. There's some very good hurlers that play football for Dublin. But Conor Callaghan's the obvious one. But are you trying to tell me that Dublin couldn't more or less forego Conor Callaghan until, at the very least, the end of the Leinster Championship? The hurlers could do with him in the Leinster Championship. Footballers don't need him at all.
He could play June for the hurlers, the round robin in Leinster, and then flick to the footballers.
Yeah, and just say now this obviously won't happen, because people just say, well, it can't happen anymore. I don't believe that. I don't think, if Conor Callaghan is training inter-county football or hurling, he's in good enough shape to do the other, if you know what I mean. And his hurling ability is there. Dublin could win an All-Ireland in hurling with Conor Callaghan. It's not ridiculous to suggest that, because, you know, they're not a million miles off the likes of Wexford, who were very close to beating Tipperary this year, and so on and so forth. That was without Conor Callaghan, and Dublin were good this year. Dublin footballers do not need Conor Callaghan really until an All-Ireland semi-final, being honest. And he's a loss to hurling, he's a loss to Dublin hurlers, but he's a loss to the sport of hurling, which is arguably the greatest sport in the world, and he's not hurling because of this kind of professionalism in Gaelic football that decrees that he has to be doing one or the other. I mean, I think Adrian Russell has brought out a book about the Cork's double winning team in, wasn't it 91? 1990 rather, when they beat Galway in the hurling final. And obviously in those days you did have the dual player.
One though.
It was only one.
Sorry, there's two.
It was Teddy McCarthy and Dave Barry did Dave Barry played soccer and played football, but Teddy McCarthy did.
The cornerback who managed the hurlers after the strike played football as well, whose name escapes me from that team. Sorry.
Galway would have had Alan Kearns playing a bit of both. Now, Galway's Daithí Burke could potentially do both. He's a very good footballer. But I don't... The Conor Callaghan case to me is fairly straightforward. Like, if Conor Callaghan... there should be an arrangement that he's allowed to hurl, because he would be a huge boost to Dublin hurlers. A huge boost, clearly. If Tommy Walsh is a good judge, and you look very sharp in that video, by the way. Was it a special occasion? All wearing...
I don't know, I can't remember. We all looked young, and Owen had three beards, yeah.
Yeah, but it's just interesting, because Will O'Callaghan, obviously, who would know a lot more about hurling than I do, just basically dismissed this on Twitter last night and said it's just not possible. And it's sad that if Will is right, it's sad that that's the case, because I don't see why Dublin footballers need Conor Callaghan during the Leinster Championship.
So they want him, and they want him to be... So when that team is down to 14 men, and they're a point... When the Dublin footballers are down to 14 men and they're a point down in an All-Ireland final, it's the training that they're doing in March, April, May, and it's the training games in June and July that give them the know-how and the knowledge to work with each other and to be on that sort of psychic level connected to each other in a way that means that they can make a run 3 times and they know they're going to get it the 4th time.
He's still training with them, though. It's not that he's not with them.
You can't do all the training.
It's just he has to train a little less, because he's committed 80%, but he trains a little bit for the hurlers as well, and it's just an option. He doesn't. It's still a bloody game. Like, Conor Callaghan comes on to Dublin hurlers, and he's well able to do a very good job, clearly. And I would imagine that... I remember talking to Anthony Cunningham about this, actually, when he was a Dublin manager, and I think there was an acceptance that it just couldn't happen when he was rather involved with Dublin. But I don't see why we should accept that. It's still supposed to be an amateur sport where they should be able to play both, whether it is or not. And it's just, but it's a loss to hurling. It's a loss to hurling. That's the big thing, you know.
I mean, the point that I made was that if they've done their 5 in a row, they've been part of history, maybe they can go, right, I'm going to go and do this other thing over here now. I mean, it's unlikely to happen, right? Like, you wouldn't, not many people would step away from being part of that Dublin team now. But Kieran Kilkenny was as good a hurler as he was a footballer.
Yeah, and maybe he'd like to hurl for Dublin. It'd been interesting if...
Do you know, at 27, 28, you go, I'm going to go and give 5, 6 years to the hurlers now because that's what I want to do. Like, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility, is it?
No, I know, and I know we've a lot of, you know, chat about burnout and all that, but with someone like Conor Callaghan, I think he's so talented that he can definitely get away with having a slightly less fixed regime in terms of his training, in my view. And it's just sad that we accept that, you know, you might as well start paying the players if they're not able to play a bit of hurling on the side. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's 8:41 this morning on OTB AM. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can hit us up at Off the Ball AM. A couple of stories from the papers that we haven't got to this morning yet. Davy Fitzgerald, Tom Dempsey has given the Indo an interview saying that it would cause pandemonium if Davy Fitz leaves, and there is no ready-made replacement, he says. Although having said that, Derek McGrath might be an interesting person to come along to that Wexford group.
Absolutely, and geographically it wouldn't be impossible, whereas the Galway one would. The Galway situation is just very strange there. You know, the football management is obviously slightly up in the air as well, but there's just this big elephant in the room of the financial problems that are beset Galway, and I don't know how they're going to overcome that. To attract the right names, realistically, you know, they're going to have some sort of an arrangement, and I don't know, Galway seems a complete mess, but we're getting into October now and we're kind of still up in the air, and I don't know, it's very worrying because you have to plan for, we could win an All-Ireland in hurling certainly next year. The footballers potentially aren't a million miles off going close, and we've no manager.
Yeah, I'm hearing that the candidates who would be interested in it aren't getting all the assurances they need at the minute from the county board.
Yeah, well, Micheál Donoghue clearly left because the relationship had broken down there, and
Micheál Donoghue should still be the hurling manager.
He should, yeah.
By all accounts, the players made that clear to the county board.
Yeah,
you go down there and you get him back.
Yeah,
nothing happened.
Like, it's interesting. My club, St Brendan's at home, is I think it's £1,500 a year they pay as a levy towards the cost of Loch George, which was the planned.
Right.
Yeah, so they're a football club as well, and it's just a sign of how much that would have set back the county board as well. But it's very, very messy, and it's definitely hurting our prospects next year that there's nothing in place. You know, there's uncertainty.
Patrick McHugh says, "I'm watching from Japan, lads. I'm absolutely dying from the game yesterday. I hope you weren't in our video, our walk of shame that so many of the Ireland fans, they were okay, weren't they? They were mostly okay.
Not too bad. It could have been worse. I imagine he probably edited some stuff out.
There's some stuff on the cutting room floor that was not cleared. Michael White says, I wonder will Cronin start after Best played 80 minutes? Cronin more mobile against Japan? It was. I mean, Cronin didn't make the bench, and Cronin's a very high impact bench player. So. And that was one of those selection things. Poor Ty Byrne comes on and gets yellow carded, and there's not much debate about the yellow card or whether it was justified or not. I'm not entirely sure that it was. It seemed like a fairly quick decision, but anyway, maybe it was. And you just feel for him because he needs
big time, yeah.
Out there and go, no, I'm really worried. You got to stick me in.
Yeah, when they made all the changes, I was looking all the time. Where's Rory Best? Like it was obviously an intent that we're going to leave Rory on as long as we can. And I was delighted for him. The line out really, from what I recall anyway, couldn't have gone much better. And just must have been some weight off everyone's shoulders that was kind of turned around from the situation we were in a couple of months ago.
Well, the Japanese press conference is on at the moment. We'll go back to Eoin Sheahan in just a couple of minutes' time, but the news isn't good. They're not cooperating. There's no interpreter, and there's not a word of English being spoken. So,
yeah,
he just obviously didn't do his Japanese research.
Yeah,
he didn't do enough.
It seems
a
bit
in Japan class.
It seems a bit daft, though, does it not? I mean, could give us a little bit of a hand. We're trying to promote the game as well.
There you go. Extremely well attended press conference in Hamamatsu as Japan's Ireland week begins. Not a word of English, not an interpreter in sight. Consider us rattled. Well, sure, look, we'll go over and we'll see what that was like. That piece might be a little bit shorter coming your way just after 9. It's 8:45. Let's get into some Gary Breen goodness here. So going to talk football with Daniel Harris next. First, Gary Breen was on commentary duty for Off the Ball yesterday with Stephen Doyle. Here he is talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's United.
It wasn't in isolation. It wasn't just on what I'd seen today. It's what I've seen at the back end of last season. Losing to Cardiff, losing to Huddersfield, and then being told, and this big spinner, there's going to be a massive change. Manchester United about challenging at the top. Now suddenly we're talking about it's going to be 3 or 4 years. And the question I asked was, what are Manchester United fans thinking right now? Because he's a fan's favourite. He's an iconic figure at this club. Of course he is. But judge him on his merits as a manager, not as a player in terms of what he's done. And Joe obviously is a Manchester United fan because he didn't like to hear any criticism of Solskjaer, did he? And it's not necessarily criticism about him because I know him a little bit. He was on my A licence. I know Mike Phelan, who was on my management diploma, and I know Michael Carrick from playing. These are great guys. They are. They're Manchester United through and through. And as I said to Joe on a romantic notion, I want to see these iconic figures leading the club back to former past glories as such. But just look at what he's doing as a manager and look at his record. And everyone used it as stick to beat the previous ones who replaced Ferguson in Moyes, Van Gaal and Mourinho. And just because he is one of your own, don't ignore the actual results that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's Gary Breen speaking in the aftermath of the 2-0 defeat by West Ham at the City of London Stadium yesterday from Manchester United's perspective. Daniel Harris is with us. Daniel, good morning to you. How you doing?
Good morning, hello.
So, it wasn't a smash and grab 2-0, it wasn't a fluke, it was a West Ham are slightly better than Manchester United defeat at the moment, which I guess must rankle the most because really, there shouldn't really be a situation where West Ham are better than Manchester United.
No, I heard Gary was talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but actually, you can blame him to a certain extent. I think he picked the wrong team yesterday, but was there, of the fit players, was there a team available to him that you would be sure would definitely beat West Ham? And the answer to that, in my opinion, is no. And the reason for that is there are far more reasons for that than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not a good manager. So what I would say is that if you employ a young manager who's not very experienced, you have to be prepared for that manager to make mistakes and for that manager to learn on the job. But he doesn't have a midfield. And he wasn't given the money that he was meant to be given in order to strengthen the team. And you heard Gary Neville on Sky talking about it's going to take 3 windows, it's going to take 4 windows. The reason it's going to take that is because he's not being given the money all in one go to say, I'm going to address it right now. There was no reason why he couldn't have had more money to buy more players, apart from the fact that United have owners who use the club as their personal ATM, and their ambitions are not commensurate with the reputation of the club and with the ambitions of the supporters. And until that changes, you're going to see lots more of this.
Yeah. We'll talk about the Glazers and we'll talk about Woodward in a minute, but the one thing that Solskjaer is not in a position at the minute to, because of experience, because of just where he is in his managerial career, to rescue that scenario. Great managers around the world in world football might be able to get more out of this squad at the minute. So there's a trade-off between Manchester United investing in the time and the job and the energy to make Solskjaer great versus just getting somebody who might be able to get better results from this team. And, the difficulty is that Alex Ferguson, I suspect, would have been able to get more out of this team over the last 18 months. And because you're Manchester United, you'll always be compared with that. But because you're Man United, you should always be compared with the best manager in the world because you should be trying to get the best manager in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. But Alex Ferguson was a one-off genius. We'll never see anyone like him again. But then you talk about other managers and you're sort of almost talking about Jose Mourinho or Louis van Gaal, who they employed after he'd done a ludicrously brilliant job at the World Cup. And those two guys didn't work. So if you were to say now who is the best manager in the world, they are not available. Probably the 2 best managers in the world are Jurgen Klopp and Pep Guardiola. And by a hilarious twist of fate, they happen to be employed by United's closest rivals. United could not get those managers. So what they did was, they went for a cheap option, let's be honest. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was a cheap option. But they went for someone who wants to try and build something. Whether he's capable of building something or not is hard to say. But Jose Mourinho didn't want to build something. He wanted immediate success. He brought players he thought would come in and do something immediately. And he wasn't too bothered about what happened subsequent to that. So they've employed a different kind of manager. And I think now you need to show a little bit of patience. I agree it wasn't great yesterday. But United have played okay on occasions this season. The players that Solskjaer bought in the summer seem to be doing pretty well. So I wouldn't get too agitated about what happens when you're without Paul Pogba, when you're without Anthony Martial, and when Marcus Rashford gets injured during the game. You don't have a lot of options because the squad is light. You could chastise Solskjaer for selling Alexis Sanchez, for letting him go away on loan, except what has he contributed in the time he's been at United? Is anyone seriously going to say that Alexis Sanchez would have done anything yesterday to redeem that situation? Would he bollocks? Of course not. He could have kept Romelu Lukaku, except Lukaku wanted to go. He probably needed the money in order to buy other players that he wanted. Lukaku's not part of his vision going forward. So although he wasn't allowed to replace him, having Lukaku knocking around, generally getting aggravated about not being able to play, not wanting to be there, would also have been problematic. So I don't think it's particularly difficult to defend him on those counts. But as I said earlier, he picked the wrong team yesterday. If you've got a midfield with Matic, Mata and McTominay, then running about creating things is going to be difficult. And there's no future in that midfield. So even if he'd have picked some younger players, if he'd have picked Angel Gomez, let's say, instead of Mata, how much worse could it possibly have been? And I think he was a little bit cautious in that aspect.
So when you say he's picked the wrong team, again, there's a few small decisions along the way. They feel like they're small decisions because it's somebody with 500 Premier League games versus somebody with 2 substitute appearances or whatever it is. But actually, part of that is about culture, right? Part of that is saying, actually, I don't think Juan Mata is going to be somebody that we believe in for the future because he isn't there anymore. So he needs to be braver too. He needs to get to that point where he's like, I'm going to just go for this and I'm going to, in some ways, actually win the fans over by buying some time with them.
Yeah, I mean, if I'd have been picking the team yesterday, I would have picked probably Fred instead of Matic and either Gomez or Lingard instead of Mata. Am I seriously going to say that with that team, I would be confident of seeing a completely different outcome? I could not say that. But it would have felt at least like there was an aim to where it was going. And perhaps this will now force his hand because he will have to play Mason Greenwood probably when he's healthy. And he might now say that Matic and Mata are finished, who knows. But the problem isn't the team that he picked yesterday, although I do think he picked the wrong team yesterday. The problem is that he doesn't have a serious football team available to him because he hasn't been given the money to buy that. And there's a lot of years of mess need to be cleared up, and I think that he has started to do that. The question as to whether he's a good enough manager to manage United, I mean, the chances are he isn't, because who in the world is? Almost nobody. It's a difficult job, competing at the top level of football, so he probably isn't good enough, and things that seem too good to be true probably are. But at the same time, I think that showing some patience with what he's trying to do is the only way that things are going to improve, because let's say they fire Ole Gunnar Solskjaer today. Then what do? Who would you go and get if you were firing him and be sure that they were going to succeed?
Yeah, the problem is though, Daniel, like his CV for the job would have had him probably not in the top 200 managers that you could actually say is equipped for that job, because his CV was very, very ordinary. And the fact that he played for Man United, to me, is absolutely irrelevant. It has nothing to do with his suitability to the job at the moment. And if they're in a situation now where they don't look like they're going to be Champions League next season, where is Man United going to go financially? Like where are they going to be, and how long is it going to take for them to get there? And why they gave the job to a manager on the basis of his results over 8 to 10 games was, to me, completely myopic and absolutely stupid.
Well, I would say that I agree that his CV until United wasn't good enough for someone who should get that job. But on the other hand, he was appearing to prove himself for the job by actually doing the job. And it did seem like it was quite difficult not to give him the job, particularly when who are the other candidates for the job? They went for something different, and as I said before, they went for something cheap. But it's true that he doesn't have a lot to fall back on, and I think perhaps something that he should have done that he hasn't done is try and find an experienced coach, because at the moment he's got Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna. We don't really know if they're any good. Perhaps they are good, but what they don't have is the experience. But again, if you gave United's current squad to Pep Guardiola or to Jurgen Klopp, I think they would struggle to get a result yesterday. When you take Paul Pogba out of that midfield and when you take Anthony Martial out of the front line, they've got a huge problem. And they gambled. I mean, they gambled that they didn't strengthen the squad, and they gambled that they wouldn't suffer these kind of injuries. And obviously, hilariously, it's happened almost immediately. The exact errors of parsimony that they made in the transfer market have come back to haunt them. And there's not a lot that you can do about that other than suffer, because the players to make things better aren't available to you. And as far as going in the Champions League, the only way that I could possibly look at this is that the Glazers are not that bothered about getting into the Champions League, because if they were, they would have made more money available. If they'd have given Solskjaer the money for 2 midfield players in the summer, in addition to the players that he bought, I think they'd have a pretty good chance of getting there. They decided not to take that gamble, and they decided that they would just continue milking the club rather than speculating to accumulate, essentially. And I don't think that they could possibly be that bothered about getting the Champions League, because in order to do that, it's now competitive. For the first decade of this century, you more or less knew who the 4 teams were going to be. There are now more teams competing for that, and the Glazers have decided that they don't really want a part of it. If you get there, very nice. If you don't get there, then whatever, because if they were asked about it, they'd be funding it, and they're not.
That's bloody depressing. Like, I mean, I find the Manchester City situation kind of quite depressing in terms of the money that's just been thrown at them from Arab wealth or whatever. But on the flip side of that, like milking a club like Manchester United, a great club, purely for sort of, you know, the purposes of making money, is pretty grim.
How long do you think it's going to be, Daniel, before Man United get back to competing for a championship? Realistically, at this point, it's hard to see the situation changing until there's a change in ownership, and there's no reason for the Glazers to sell at this point. So I can't see this changing. I can't see the circumstances changing until you find some amazing manager who is the next generation, who actually looks at everything Man United have. Like, it'll be some messianic figure who somehow conspires against the odds to make that team a contender again.
It's partly that, and I think what the club are hoping for and really relying on, gambling on, is that the crop of young players who are coming through are really good. That seems to me to be the only way that this can possibly work. If Mason Greenwood, Taith Chong, Angel Gomez, Brandon Williams, Ethan Laird, Dylan Levitt, if a handful of them become good enough to play at the elite level, then that is the only way that United are going to be able to compete in the near to mid-term future, because otherwise it's going to take a lot of money that's not going to be made available. And as I said, like, if Pep Guardiola was managing this United team and he had the players that Solskjaer had, and he was given the funds that Solskjaer has been given, it would not be enough. You would expect to see United doing slightly better, because Pep Guardiola is some kind of football genius and a better manager than Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but he would not be making a championship-winning team out of what he's got with this money. It's not possible. So the only way is if they get this crop of young players and they happen to be good enough, and who knows whether that's going to happen or not. I would say Mason Greenwood looks like a cert, but I don't think you can say that about any of the others at this point. And otherwise, it's going to be more of the same. And they might sack Solskjaer if it gets really terrible and get someone else, but that someone else is going to have the same problems that Solskjaer had, the same problems that Mourinho had, the same problems that Van Gaal had, the same problems that Moyes had. And the common thread here is not crap managers. The common thread is Manchester United under the Glazers.
There is, though, I mean, if they'd had one single overarching philosophy buying all the players over the last decade, then a lot of the money that has been wasted might not have been wasted. If you put the 40 million that they spend on bad centre-backs together, if you put the 40 million on midfielders that never make the starting 11, if you put all that money together and had somebody intelligent buying the players and negotiating in the transfer market, there's probably enough money for the team to be a top 4 team at least.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, Van Gaal in particular wasted quite a lot of money. And even if you look at Mourinho signings, how many of Mourinho signings have been unqualified successes? I would say the answer to that is 0. So for sure, the money could have been spent better. And you need better scouting departments, you need better negotiators, you need all of those things. And it's true that United should be in the top 4 with the money that they've spent, perhaps. But given the situation that Solskjaer is in now and the mess that he has got to clear up, I don't think it's particularly surprising that they are where they are. And so they're mistakes that have been made previously. But if we look at the current situation, I don't think that there's that much better available, given the injuries that they've got, that United should be in the top 4 comfortably. I don't see it with this team.
Okay, I wanted to ask you about City and Liverpool at the weekend. Jared De La Fea had a chance at 1-0 to make it 1-1 for Watford, and well, skitters a bit left of the goals, and After that, it's 5-0 in the blink of an eye. Inside the next 10 minutes, basically 5-0. Afterwards, the Watford goalkeeper was like, oh, listen, somebody's going to concede 10 to these guys before the end of the season. The Premier League is supposed to be the most competitive league in the world, and yet teams are definitely rolling over for City and saying, well, look, there's nothing we can do here. You're just too good for us. Part of it, I understand, because City are really good, but part of it is also like, come on, just like get in there and have a plan, try something, anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it's so much that Watford wouldn't have had a plan. I think the problem is not even so much you see City winning 8-0, because that will occasionally happen. United beat Ipswich 9-0 and Forest 8-1. You do see it occasionally. The problem is more, to me, is the points tallies. You don't want the team that wins the league to be getting as many points as City got last season and the season before. And what you want is you want it to be competitive on a week-to-week basis. So you might see occasional serious hidings, but what you want generally the games to be competitive. And when that stops happening, then your league has a problem. And if we see another season like last season where City and Liverpool get a ludicrous number of points, that is worrying. I don't really see what you can do about it, because how do you do something about it? The problem, I think, with City in particular is that obviously they've got an absolute load of money, and the particular style of football that they play, when it works, is very hard to beat, because you almost never have the ball, and there's not very much you can actually do to beat them. I mean, we saw it with Guardiola's Barcelona team, we saw it with his Bayern Munich teams, we saw it with Spain, even though Guardiola wasn't the manager. That style of football, when it's played well, is almost unbeatable, and that is a problem. And it's not about punishing City for being too good. It's that you want, as you say, you want your league to be competitive, and the league champions have always come from 2 or 3 clubs for the last 40 years. Liverpool dominated in the 70s and 80s, then it was United and Arsenal, then it was United and Chelsea. So it's not exactly about who wins the league, but the manner of them winning the league. So rather on a season-by-season basis, you want it to be competitive week to week. Who is going to win the games, and will the games be close? And the Premier League now has a problem, and it feels in some ways churlish about complaining about the problem, because you've got these two teams that are hitting incredible levels of excellence, but you don't want them to get this number of points, rather than you don't want them to occasionally win 8-0. You don't want that much either, but it's unusual. But on the week-to-week basis, it's the fact that they win almost every game, and that is difficult.
Yeah, it's becoming a bit more usual. And Liverpool Liverpool open a 5-point lead at the top of the table. Everyone's like, oh, it's a 5-point lead, but it's not a 5-point lead. It's a 5-point lead over Man City. It's a 7-point lead over Leicester, Arsenal, West Ham, and it's an 8-point lead over Bournemouth. None of those teams are going to compete for the title. So the league is now officially a 2-horse race, and we're 6 games in. Like, we knew it was before the season started, but it is now officially a 2-horse race for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been like that a lot before too. I think one of the other differences that the Premier League era and the influx of money has brought is that, apart from Leicester, that was a one-off, you don't see teams like QPR and Watford coming second, or Villa, which happened in the 80s and the 90s. There would be different teams who would be challenging and doing something, and you would be surprised about that. And Liverpool would win the league in the end, but there were other teams that were able to do something, and obviously that is more or less no longer possible. I think what Liverpool, you have to give them credit also, that what's happened with Liverpool is that winning the Champions League has made them a different team. It's given them a different kind of confidence and authority in their play, where they turn up, they expect to win, they know they're going to win, and they win when they're playing badly. And you've seen that with lots of other Liverpool teams over the years. You saw it with Fergie's United teams, where getting that initial success just raises the level. And you can only give Liverpool credit for their ability to do that. I don't know if it will continue, but until someone beats them in the league, and until they suffer some injuries, or until and something happens to hit their confidence, it just looks like they're going to keep going. And again, you don't want it happening for the sake of the league, but there's not very much that can be done about it, because here we are.
Yeah, Daniel, good stuff this morning. Thanks a million.
All right, see you again, guys.
Cheers. It's Daniel Harris giving us some thoughts on the weekends. I think that if you're a Liverpool fan, you're absolutely delighted with the way things are going. You want this situation to continue, where it is a 2-horse race, and you're matching City stride for stride.
Yeah, like they they wouldn't have expected to be 5 points clear. That like City losing to Norwich was just complete black swan stuff. And Liverpool weren't great yesterday. That's the only thing. They weren't great against Napoli. They don't look unbeatable. Their midfield was overrun at times yesterday.
It's always been overrun, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was just watching at the weekend when Pats were playing Shamrock Rovers. Stephen O'Donnell decided to match Shamrock Rovers in the middle of the pitch and basically didn't so much worry about how wide, but Liverpool out wide yesterday, they look very, very vulnerable with they're so narrow, and with their front players. Salah was quite poor. Chelsea had a lot of joy in wide areas, and other teams will definitely look at that and say, like, we can expose kinks in them. Great chance at the end. I can't remember who it was. Lovely ball from Alonso in that they really could have scored from.
Mount.
Yeah, and it was like Liverpool. They're 5 points clear, but I wouldn't be getting carried away.
All right. If you want to watch the Rugby World Cup from the comfort of your own home, then stay tuned, because the prize this week in our competition is a top-of-the-range LG 55-inch OLED TV. Some of the many features included are LG ThinQ AI, Google Assistant, Alexa. You can enter the draw. All you got to do is share the hashtag OTBAM stream wherever you're watching or listening to the show this morning, and tell us who won the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Expert Electrical, Ireland's largest electrical retailer, have the largest range of TVs and soundbars from all of the top brands such as LG, Samsung, Panasonic and Sony. You can shop online at expert.ie, or you can visit one of their 67 stores nationwide. There's always an expert near you. All right, we're back with Eoin Sheahan in Japan next.
Watched Off the Ball. I'm Scottish. I've seen it on YouTube. Off the Ball, to be fair, I've watched Off the Ball on YouTube. They're good boys.
This is the game we wanted. Get over to Japan tomorrow or on the 28th, and look, we'll see South Africa then.
What do you think?
Even confident than me.
I think Gav is right.
Gav's a fucking bullshit.
Right, to Japan. Eoin Sheahan, good morning to you.
Morning, how are things?
How was that press conference? I mean, I know you were doing journalism again, but it didn't work out, did it?
It did, to a certain point. The first couple of people that were up were they were natives. They speak Japanese as their first language, and naturally the press here don't feel the need to translate it for the foreign media. To be fair, the Japanese press conferences are better attended than any other conference I've been at. The amount of photographers, the amount of people frantically typing is incredible. There is tons of media from all around the country at these press conferences. So you get there and you really do feel like an outsider when you're watching it happen. But then they brought in two people who weren't native Japanese speakers, so they actually had to have an interpreter. So we got into the mix, asked them a few questions. I'm literally just out of the press conference there, so I'll get it up and off the ball during the day. But I got chatting to a couple of them about Ireland's weaknesses and things like that, and there seems to be a bit of a theme developing here that Ireland out on the flanks is going to be an area that Japan are going to target. It was also mentioned that they might bomb a few balls into the air, test Ireland out with the high ball. That they spilled a few balls yesterday is what they mentioned, and that might be another area that they target, all with the caveat that they don't want to give away their game plan, but you can kind of read between the lines in the Japanese press conference today.
Okay, so that's not part of their game plan. Wink, wink. Is that kind of how that went? Who did they put forward?
There was two players put forward there earlier. We're going to have obviously Jamie Joseph at some point during the week as well, which is kind of the holy grail when it comes to these press conferences, because you've got a native English speaker who's in charge of the whole operation. That is what we're all looking forward to. I'm not sure if he's going to actually talk tomorrow morning or is he going to talk the following day, but as soon as he is, we'll get all that stuff up on offtheball.com. But it's hard to tell. They had a replacement scrum half up first today, and they go through 4 players today, and then they'll put up another few again tomorrow. So it's handy. It's just across the road here from the hotel we're in, and it's kind of like this sort of desolate place when you walk in. It's like that Fatboy Slim music video with Christopher Walken in it. Weapon of choice. When he's kind of dancing around an empty hotel, that's what kind of these buildings feel like here. And then you actually walk into the press conference room and it's packed with Japanese journalists. So it's an interesting experience. Just sit tight for the video, because it's intriguing enough. It's kind of intimidating asking a question as well, because as soon as you open your mouth, there's just clicks everywhere. It's very unusual. It's kind of a bizarre setup.
Taking photographs of you.
Yeah, intimidating for people answering your questions last night.
I know. No, I don't think so, Ger. I think it's just any movement of the head, even by somebody at the top table, needs to be snapped by about 20 different photographers in the room. It's fairly intimidating for a player, actually, where especially if you're not a Japanese speaker, you're going through an interpreter. You've got people snapping you all the time. And the answers were quite short, to be fair, from some of the English speakers, because I guess they just felt it was a bit of a hassle.
Alan Quinlan was on earlier. He was saying he thinks that there won't be significant changes beyond the players who are injured. Probably maybe Sexton doesn't start. The two guys who are coming through the HIAs probably don't start next week against Japan. But other than that, the squad will largely be kept intact. So maybe Joey Carbery starts at 10. Is Joey Carbery ready to start at 10 against Japan, do you think?
But it's unusual. Why wasn't he on the bench yesterday? The news around him was that he was flying in training, that he was ready to go, that he did a full part in the warm-up, but Jack Carty was selected ahead of him. Carty obviously did really well when he came on. You do wonder if there's now a battle there between them for a substitute number 10. I would always maintain that because of what Joey Carbery offers, he is a better substitute out half, because he is a different sort of out half. It's not just a situation where if you need to replace Sexton or anything like that. It's a situation where he can slot in at 15, or potentially he could slot in at 12 in a very extraordinary circumstance, and just offer something different to the Ireland backline. Whereas Jack Carty is a very traditional 10, I think it's fair to say, even though some of the things he does and the way he kicks the ball sometimes isn't very traditional at all. So I think he's got great options there. I think he sees a lot of value in Jack Carty, and I don't think it's fully nailed down here that he's going to be out of the picture if everybody's fit. But yeah, it's unusual. I would expect him to come back in, because they did make it clear yesterday that he was going to take a full part in the warm-up.
Okay, we can see the city behind you this time. You said earlier on it was just blue sky. But so where are you again? Remind us.
Hamamatsu is the name of the city. It's the biggest city with a population of around 800,000 in the prefecture of Shizuoka. Shizuoka is where Ireland are playing. There's a Shizuoka city, and there's a Fukuroi city, which is where Ireland versus Japan is going to happen this weekend in the Epoka Stadium, which is the same stadium where Ronaldinho lobbed Seaman from 40 yards in 2002.
Accidentally, of course.
Yeah, of course. We can bring back up that debate when we get to the ground or something at the weekend. He was going for it, Ger. He was going for it. So that's the stadium where Ireland and Japan is on. But it's down here in the mountains. Getting the bullet train down earlier on, you're told to sit in seat number E to get a beautiful view of Mount Fuji. And I get onto the train and I'm stuck in seat D, and the guy beside me's got the window seat, and I'm like, that's gutting. Then he turns around to me and he's like, I'm actually getting off the next station, mate, if you want to swap seats. I'm like, yes, the Holy Grail. I get the perfect view of Mount Fuji. Look out the window, fog everywhere. So I didn't quite get to see it, unfortunately, today. But I might make a trip up there at some point this week to try and see it in all its glory.
Is it close?
Yeah, it is. It's so the journey down from Tokyo was less than 2 hours, and Mount Fuji is about halfway in between here and there. So about an hour and a half up the road on one of the slow trains or buses. And you'll be in a good view of Mount Fuji. The countryside around here is absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. It's mountainous. There's kind of old-style Japanese houses dotted along the mountainside as the kind of bullet train courses through little towns here and there. So we're in a beautiful part of the country right here, it's fair to say. But this is the most populated, this is the most urban area in this entire prefecture here.
All right. Sounds like you're having a good time. You're going to do a paper review for us today as well, are you?
Yeah, will you have a look at some of the papers today? It's obviously rugby, because of the Japan playing on Friday. It isn't exactly making its way into a lot of the newspapers. Like, for example, we have Naomi Osaka there on the back of this paper. Again, I need to figure out what these newspapers are actually called so I can start finding trends in them or anything like that. Baseball season still up and running here, which is something that is kind of dominating proceedings in the sports pages as well. But when it comes to the Rugby World Cup, we can see here we've got a match report on Ireland against Scotland. You can see that right there. It's a picture of Rory Best's head upside down. We've also got England-Tonga there with Eddie Jones quotes in a sidebar. And it's hard to actually kind of make out what they're trying to say about Ireland. I do wonder if we're going to get to a situation now where the Japanese press are going to turn into like Ireland bashes over the next couple of days to try and psych us out, because by all accounts, some people aren't too happy with the fact that Ireland are talking about South Africa already and potential quarter-finalists. Tennis and golf dominating things there as well. Shibuno is the name of the golfer, of course, who had great success over the course of the weekend. She's on the back page of a lot of the newspapers. There she is on my favourite publication, the one, again, that I don't really know what it is, but it's colourful and it's got lots of things on the inside. If we take a quick look inside, we'll be able to see a couple of Rugby World Cup things, I'm sure. And baseball, as always, is just everywhere. You can see there's somebody who's very distraught about a particular sporting event. I think that's to do with the baseball. So that's unfortunate for that person. I think the Tigers suffered a loss over the course of the weekend. I'm starting to get to know the names of these baseball teams. I don't know where they're located or anything, but the Tigers are one of them. Rugby then here, that's their rugby section in this newspaper. So you got to go about 4 or 5 pages in to actually find any evidence of rugby in these newspapers. So, like, you can see it on the front page of this one then, the Japan team walking through a corridor somewhere. So there's kind of a fascination, I think, with the tournament as a whole, with the team as a whole. Whether or not the sport is going to take over now is obviously this very hard thing to nail down over the next couple of weeks. Like, there was a good few locals at the game yesterday. Like, they were kind of wearing Ireland jerseys, actually, a lot of the local people. But then Saturday night, New Zealand against South Africa, it felt like more of a corporate affair. It didn't really feel like that the locals were there as such. There was a lot of Springboks, a lot of New Zealand, and a lot of people, I'd say, involved in sponsorship and things like that.
Yeah. All right, Owen, good stuff today. Thanks a million. We look forward to your stuff in the press conference a little bit later on all of our social channels. And go easy, enjoy it.
Cheers.
It's Eoin Sheahan, our man in Japan, with his latest dispatch. Israel Folau is making a comeback. He has been signed up by Tonga to play rugby league. So the Sydney Morning Herald are reporting this morning, "I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to represent God, my family, my heritage, and the people of Tonga. I'm thankful that the RLIF have accepted my availability to play," he said in a Tonga Rugby League statement. So don't know how much money he's making from that, or even what competition Tonga play in.
Yeah. Might help towards his legal fees and all that.
Yeah, so Israel Folau is back, but the Rugby World Cup is chuntering along nicely without him. We're going to take a quick break. Back with Phil Egan.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
The 2019 Boyle Sports World Grand Prix Darts is back at the City West Convention Centre, Dublin, from the 6th to the 12th of October. See 32 of the biggest darting stars on the planet, including world number 1 Michael van Gerwen, former Grand Prix champion Darrell Gurney, plus fan favourite Peter Wright. Get your tickets now at ticketmaster.ie and search darts. The 2019 Boyle Sports World Grand Prix Darts at City West. Game on.
Rugby season is back, and Lifestyle Sports is giving you the chance to win something very special.
The ultimate rugby year for you and 3 mates.
You could be headed to the Champions Cup final,
the Pro 14 final,
interprovincial games of your choice,
and get match day ready with kit bags full of jerseys,
new season training gear,
€400 in vouchers, and more.
Check out lifestylesports.com.
Lifestyle Sports Rugby on Insta,
or buy any jersey in store or online for a chance to win.
Live rugby with Lifestyle Sports.
OTB AM.
All right, I'm going to give you another opportunity to enter our competition. We're giving away a 55-inch LG OLED TV. It is a top-of-the-range TV. Some of the features included the LG ThinQ AI, Google Assistant, Alexa. To enter the draw, all you've got to do is share the OTB AM stream wherever you're watching or listening to the show this morning, and tell us who won the 2007 Rugby World Cup. Expert Electrical, Ireland's largest electrical retailer, have the largest range of TVs and soundbars from all the top brands such as LG, Samsung, Panasonic and Sony. You can shop online at expert.ie or visit one of their 67 stores nationwide. There's always an expert near you. Phil, as our resident expert, how are you?
Good, yeah. A good TV is crucial as a sports fan, isn't it?
I've got size envy now. You can never have a TV that's too big. Life is too short to have a small TV.
Well, the visuals for the World Cup, like where they kind of named the team at the bottom.
Oh yeah.
And I think they described their position under it. Like, I have a 48-inch, 50-inch TV or something. I can barely read it. Yeah. So the implication is that
you need a 55-inch. Got into our competition.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the organizer, like, unless you have a really, really big TV in which you can still barely read this, you're complete, like, you're a waster, really. So, like, the old small TVs, you know, when your mother was potentially doing a bit of cooking in the morning and you had the little TV on in the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
Them days are obviously toast anyway, but, yeah, I'm on the market for a new TV, I think, as well, to be honest.
They're Expert Electrical, your only man.
We'll start with the Ireland rugby team. Just put a bit more meat in the bones in terms of the injury update. The management say Johnny Sexton suffered a bang in his thigh during the first half of yesterday's win over Scotland, and that he was taken off in the second half for tactical reasons, and it was nothing to do with the injury. Conor Murray obviously took over kicking duties before Jack Carthy came on for Sexton. Peter O'Mahony and Bundy Aki, who both went off with head injuries, but both could be back in full training tomorrow. They've passed the second stage of the head injury assessment protocols. They have to now pass the third stage. Josh van der Fleer got stitches to a cut over his eye. Rob Kearney, Joey Carberry and Keith Earls are all fully fit. They'll train fully this week. Carberry and Earls actually took part in the warm-up before yesterday's game. Kearney didn't. His foot injury may still be a concern though. Robbie Henshaw remains a doubt for the Japan game with his hamstring injury. We're told though he's running well and his rehab is accelerating. We can hear now from Cian Healy, who was speaking overnight about potentially having to play an impact role at various stages during the World Cup.
No, but understanding. I want to be involved in as many as possible, and you know, whether it's start, whether it's bench, I want to be involved and play games. But if the lads see that as the best option for us to go forward, then now I probably have a more reasonable head to understand that decision.
Just ask you about the occasion yesterday, kind of the fans and all that as well. I mean, does it feel like you're at a World Cup? Does it feel very different to, say, a Six Nations match against Scotland?
Yeah, definitely. There was a buzz. There was a buzz about the place, and coming in, we could see a lot of fans. Even here in the hotel, there was loads of people in jerseys before we left, and you know, it was a nice feeling about it. I suppose like that, the big build up into it, where we were trying best to keep ourselves simmering for as long as possible and not play the game too many times in our head early. So that, then getting into the stadium and immersing ourselves, and there's kind of different everything played out a bit differently than it would to the Six Nations or a November game. So yeah, it was nice. It was enjoyable.
Fair enough. The World Cup is here. It's up and running. Perfect start.
And Cian Healy, turns out, is a very flexible front rower.
Yeah.
See the video of him doing the stretches? Certainly can't get down that low.
The Pilates are working.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up for Ireland, obviously, is the game against Japan, the hosts, on Saturday. There is one game this morning. Wales play Georgia at 11:15. No doubt it'll be on here in the office. We get excited by live sport in the office.
Yeah.
So we'll be watching that one. Liverpool have a 5-point lead at the top of the Premier League after making it 6 wins from 6. Jurgen Klopp's side beat Chelsea 2-1 at Stamford Bridge. First half goals coming from Trent Alexander-Arnold and Roberto Firmino. Nervy last 20 minutes for Jurgen Klopp and his team after N'Golo Kanté pulled one back for Chelsea. Elsewhere, yesterday, Manchester United lost 2-0 away to West Ham. Andrei Yarmolenko and Aaron Cresswell with the goals for the Hammers. It's now 2 defeats from 6 in the league this season for United. Manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer tried to remain positive after the loss. He said they were going to have highs and lows during the season. The same couldn't be said for former United captain Roy Keane, who was in the Sky Sports studio.
They're just not good enough. A lot of these players, we can be critical of players for, I suppose, I'd be critical of players who don't sprint and close people down, but a lot of these players aren't good enough for Manchester United. It's as simple as that, and we'll be having the same conversations throughout the course of the season. Just not good enough. Now, I feel for Ollie. I think his head must be spinning.
Yeah, Johnny's had to leg it off to his gig at Racing TV. What time are you on Racing TV, Johnny? What time? He's not telling us.
No, it's a mystery.
3 o'clock, he's saying. 3 o'clock. If he makes his flight.
Yeah.
Keane has a point.
Yeah, he is going to be in the studio. Obviously, we know he's signed up with Sky now for the rest of the season.
Is that what it is? I couldn't see how many appearances. There was no details. It was well, definitely, because he's done one-offs here and there.
So he actually did Mourinho's last game as United manager, the game at Anfield last season in December. And Mourinho was obviously in studio yesterday, who I quite like as a pundit. You know, for all his mind games and what he said as a manager, when you actually listen to him analysing football, you realise like the amount of detail that he has on the game.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he's been managing in the Premier League for so long.
Yeah, you wouldn't have said that detail would have been the thing that Roy Keane is bringing to his punditry. Like, he wants him to sprint. It's definitely, it's more about the experience and event.
Yeah, like
they could end up being a good combination because there's needle between them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the time at Villa when he was assistant and
Lambert, do you remember that?
Mourinho was walking away with 4 or 5 minutes left still to go. Maybe the injury time had just gone up and he went over and he wanted to shake their hands and touch them on the face the way he does, so patronising. He touched them on the face and they were like, "Get out of it! The game's still on, get out of it!"
Yeah, I remember that actually. It was Keane it was around the time like peak beard for Roy Keane. He just had the arms folded, basically saying to Jose, he just
disrespectful.
Didn't really acknowledge him, and that was always a Mourinho trick. But it was a pretty dismal performance from United. I said many times, Arsenal are the team to watch. There's never a dull game with them. 10-man Arsenal came from behind twice to win 3-2 at home to Aston Villa.
Sickening.
Yeah, John McGinn and Wesley had Villa ahead on 2 occasions. Maitland-Niles had been sent off for Arsenal. As Dean Smith, the Villa manager, said, when are you going to get a better chance to win away at Arsenal? Callum Chambers made it 2-2 on the 81st minute, and then Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang won at 6 minutes from time with a free kick, which Villa should have done better. I mean, that's Tom Heaton's side, but now with the new rules, you can't put opposition players in the box, so you have basically 2 walls, and the Villa wall was breached, and then Heaton couldn't get in there. So it's a poor goal to concede. Nicola Pepe had got the first goal for Arsenal from the penalty spot, but Arsenal's home form is what will keep them in the mix for a top 4 finish, but they are just going to concede so many goals. Finished 1-1 between Crystal Palace and Wolves. Diogo Jota scored an injury time equaliser for Wolves. They also were reduced to 10 men in the second half. Roman Saiz picked up a second yellow for a foul on Wilfred Zaha, but a bit of a sickener for Palace and Roy Hodgson. Tonight, it's funny Johnny is gone. I wanted to ask him about this because Dundalk will be crowned SSE Electricity League Premier Division champions for the 5th time in 6 years against a team that had won the league earlier in the season when Johnny had awarded Shamrock Rovers the title. But Dundalk win at Oriel Park tonight. They guarantee the title. A draw probably do because they've superior goal difference, and even if Rovers were to win, Dundalk have enough games to get it done. 7:20 start at Oriel Park, and fairness, good recovery from Rory McIlroy at the golf, considering he was 4 over after the first day. Dropped 5 shots in his last 6 holes on Thursday. Battles back, gets his top 10 finish at the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth. England's Danny Willett won it. He finished on 20 under to claim a 3-shot win, but McIlroy in a share of 9th place on 11 under, and Shane Lowry finished up on 10 under, so he was in a share of 11th place.
Yeah, with a 66 in the final day.
Yeah.
I think his last 36 holes were sensational.
Yeah, he loves Wentworth. It was 4 top 10 finishes before, so just outside getting a 5th top 10 finish for Lowry. So
a bit of form for him for the rest of the season as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You done?
That is me done, yeah.
Right. Are you happy enough with Ireland's start of the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, it's done now. We spent so long talking about that game against Scotland, so it's done, and you can kind of almost put the feet up and just work your way through the next few games. I suppose you have to try and manage the squad in terms of injuries.
Exactly, the injuries are going to be the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, with Sexton able to produce a level of performance he's been at the last 2 games, do you not play him again now until the last half an hour against Fiji and go, that's all you're going to, that's all you're going to need? It's not Fiji, Samoa, the last group game. Do you just go, we don't need you?
We don't need you. And Ronald O'Gara was interesting yesterday when he was on with Joe, saying that he doesn't need to spend hours and hours practicing his kicking, his muscle memory. He's been there. Yeah, he's done it. So don't have to worry about that. He's also got that ability because the way they manage his schedule, that he can come in and without very little game time can hit the high levels that we expect from him. But you are certainly concerned every time you see him go down on the ground.
Yeah.
Like Conor Murray, if the pressure was on in a quarter-final, and Conor Murray was given place-kicking duties,
it'd be tough. But you would assume at that stage that Sexton's gone off and that
Jack Carty is on, or Joey Carberry.
Yeah, so they're kicking.
Yeah. But that's it. Like that, the biggest concern for me between now and the quarter-final is injuries. You see how easy it is for someone's tournament to be ended. Just look at what happened in Scotland yesterday.
Yeah, and there's going to be loads more of that between now and then.
So, but no, it was great. It was just very professional, and I suppose there was a little, when I saw the first 20 minutes of South Africa, New Zealand, I thought, I don't know if we want to be playing South Africa, but yeah, it's all set up nicely.
Yeah, a nice long month of tension to come your way, and a brilliant roadshow coming your way as well in the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. Stay tuned, we'll give you more details of that across the rest of the week. Tickets available on Ticketmaster for that one. Right, keep an ear on OTB Sports Radio throughout the day. It's Ireland's sports radio station. The best place to get that is the Go Loud app. You can download that in the App Store. Download Go Loud, click on Off the Ball as your favourite, and then OTB Sports Radio is going to be available to you 24/7 with all of our best content. So you get the morning show live, you get the evening show live, and you get all of our podcasts as well, brought to you as live shows too. Monday Night Rugby is live from 5 o'clock today. Off the Ball is back from 7 tonight. Keep an ear for Quinlan Kelleher, who's been speaking with Nathan in the aftermath of the game yesterday. That interview is going up on our YouTube channel shortly. The football show at 9 o'clock tonight. We're back tomorrow morning from 7:30 a.m. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. We'll see you then. Good luck.